There are secrets hidden in the pages of the Bible that few dare to uncover. Ancient stories, shrouded in mystery, that make the heart race and the soul tremble. These stories are not fairy tales or mere allegories. No, they are much deeper, so enigmatic that for centuries they have been silenced, kept in the shadows, away from prying eyes. But today, you are about to be confronted with something different. Something that many scholars avoid discussing. Something that could change forever the way you view the spiritual world. Imagine, for a moment, that all the certainties you have about good and evil are about to be questioned. Now, stop and think, what really happened in the fall of Lucifer? What does this once beautiful and powerful angel hide in the depths of his fall? Have you ever wondered why some mysteries remain beyond the reach of our minds? Why do so many people prefer not to talk about certain truths? Perhaps it is because these truths are too powerful, perhaps because revealing them could transform the very structure of what we call reality. Get ready. In the next few hours, we will walk together on a dangerous but fascinating path. A path where hidden secrets will be revealed and the mystery of evil will be exposed in a way you never imagined. Be ready, because at the end of this journey, your way of seeing the spiritual and even yourself may never be the same again. The fall of Lucifer, a story that has reverberated since ancient times. What is hidden behind this narrative? What secrets have not yet been revealed? Perhaps what you will discover today could forever change your understanding of good and evil, about what is really happening around us, and how it directly impacts your life. Today, we will delve into the depths of this mystery. A mystery that begins with the fall of Lucifer, but that does not end with him being expelled from heaven. No, this is just the beginning of an unseen battle, a war that still rages around us, often without our realizing it. And it is this war that few dare to speak about. You may think that this story is confined to the ancient pages of the Bible. But what if I told you that the shadows of this fall continue to influence the world in ways we could never imagine? Lucifer, the fallen angel, known for his beauty and power before his rebellion, what was he really after? Power? Glory? Or was there something deeper, something that is still at work today? As we journey through this, we will explore the depths of these secrets. We will go beyond the verses you know, beyond the story we have been told, and discover what the ancient texts and occult interpretations really reveal. You are about to learn Lucifer's true plan and, in doing so, understand how this spiritual battle still shapes the course of modern history and, who knows, perhaps even your life. And don't think that everything is confined to a story from the past. Every decision we make, every event we witness, can be connected to this ancient but still ongoing battle. From global conflicts to the spiritual challenges we face individually, there is something more, something that directly echoes this fall. In the next few minutes, you will discover why these secrets have remained hidden for so long. Why so many people avoid confronting these truths. And how it can change the way you perceive the world, good, evil, and even your own faith. The question is, are you ready to face this truth? The story of Lucifer is older than we can imagine, and its echoes can be found deep in Scripture. The words of the Bible give us clues, small glimpses of a greater truth hidden beneath layers of symbolism. In Isaiah 14, we find a grim portrait. How are you fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How are you cut down to the ground, you who weaken the nations? It is in this passage that the fall of the most brilliant angel begins to take shape, but this is only the surface. In the books of Ezekiel 28, the mystery deepens. Lucifer was not just an angel. He was the anointed cherub, the one who walked among the stones of fire. His wisdom was incomparable, his beauty indescribable. But then, pride crept into his heart. A pride that corrupted him, that made him desire the throne of God. What many do not realize is that this narrative shows us something more, the origin of evil in the very heart of a being created for good. But this fall, so succinctly narrated, carries implications that transcend the pages of the Bible. Why exactly did Lucifer fall? Was it just pride? Or was there something more at play? Something hidden between the words that we are not accustomed to seeing? Isaiah and Ezekiel give us clues, but what lies behind these passages remains a mystery to many. What we do know is that Lucifer's fall was an act of rebellion, an attempt to subvert the divine order. And this rebellion, far from being just an ancient story, continues to reverberate through the centuries, manifesting itself in ways that few are able to recognize. The battle that began in heaven has spread to earth, and its effects can still be felt today. Perhaps in the wars, in the internal struggles we face, and even in the very systems that govern the world. Evil, as we see it, may be more present than we imagine, silently shaping the course of history in our lives. What these biblical passages suggest is more than a simple narrative. They are a warning. A warning that there are forces beyond our understanding, forces that have influenced the world since that fateful moment. And if we look closely, perhaps we can realize that this battle is not just from the past, but a reality that is still unfolding before our eyes. Few know, but there is something deeper hidden behind Lucifer's fall, something that has been carefully veiled for centuries. What is found in the ancient texts is not just a story of pride and divine punishment. No, there is a hidden layer, a secret that many scholars avoid addressing. What if it was not just pride that caused his downfall? What if there was a more elaborate plan at work? Ancient manuscripts, some forgotten or purposefully ignored, speak of a power that Lucifer retained even after his fall. A power that he continued to wield, not directly, but subtly, manipulating the course of human history. Apocryphal texts suggest that Lucifer's rebellion was not a simple act of vanity, but part of a strategy to influence creation in unseen ways. Lucifer was not simply cast out of heaven, he was cast down to earth, and it is here that his true plan began to take shape. The first revelation we will explore is that Lucifer, even in his fall, retained a powerful influence over the kingdoms of earth. He knew that, in being exiled from heaven, his battle was far from over. And rather than attempt a direct return, he began working in the shadows, seeking to undermine creation from within, corrupting it, one piece at a time. The ancient texts tell us that his true weapon is not raw power, but the manipulation of the minds and hearts of men. And this raises a disturbing question: if Lucifer has not truly been defeated, what does that mean for the state of the world today? If he still exerts this invisible influence, shaping events and guiding decisions, where exactly does the story of his fall end and his reign on earth begin? The revelation that few dare to explore is that this battle, which we thought was distant in time and space, may be happening right now, in places we would never suspect. And it may be shaping the very reality around us, without our even being aware of it. These ancient texts, covered by the dust of time and willful ignorance, reveal something even more disturbing. Lucifer's fall was not just an isolated cosmic event, it was the beginning of a silent operation that has been unfolding for millennia. Imagine an invisible, subtle force shaping the most critical events in history, without ever being noticed. Lucifer, even in his fall, did not give up on his plan. On the contrary, he adapted his tactics. The scriptures and apocryphal writings suggest that Lucifer began working in the shadows, influencing kings, nations, and belief systems. Not through direct confrontation, but through the corruption of human ideas, desires, and intentions. He became a master of deception, using our own weaknesses against us. And the most disturbing thing is that this strategy has been so effective that many do not even realize his hand in it all. Throughout history, wars have been fought, empires have risen and fallen, and ideologies have flourished and withered. But what if we told you that, in all these events, there was a constant, invisible, but powerful presence? That the forces that move human history are not just political or economic, but also spiritual? What if Lucifer's rebellion did not end with his fall, but began there, with a new strategy, to sow discord and doubt in our hearts? The texts speak of an influence that has penetrated deeply into every sphere of human life. From the power of rulers to the spiritual battles waged in the minds and souls of ordinary people, this subtle power continues to operate, day after day, slowly corrupting the foundations of what we call morality, ethics, and even faith. Can you imagine the implications of this? What once seemed to be a spiritual struggle between good and evil now takes on a new form. We are not talking just about great visible battles, but about a war waged in the most mundane decisions, in the small moments that form the fabric of our lives. The fall of Lucifer was the beginning of a strategy that is still in motion, an invisible war that shapes our destinies without us even realizing it. And this is the true face of the mystery. It is not just an ancient story, but a living reality that permeates every aspect of our world, our choices, and our future. What we are facing is not just a battle against external evil, but against an ancient and persistent influence that touches us in ways we cannot even imagine. But what most people do not know, what is rarely discussed, even by the most daring scholars, is that Lucifer's true power was not destroyed with his fall. On the contrary, it became more insidious, harder to detect. While many believe his influence was limited to his initial corruption, there is one detail that challenges everything we thought we knew. Lucifer, in his rebellion, did not simply fall. He assumed a new form of power, a power that does not depend on a visible force but on a deeper, more dangerous manipulation, dominion over the mind and spirit. His true weapon was not direct confrontation with the divine but control over men's most intimate desires and fears. In his fall, he did not lose his power, he adapted it, becoming an invisible force that permeates humanity's thoughts, decisions, and ideologies. And here's the twist few expect: Lucifer's true power lies in his ability to hide in plain sight, to use our own passions and weaknesses against us without us even realizing it. He no longer needs to manifest himself as a physical entity. He works through belief systems, institutions, and even the small moral deviations that seem so harmless. Imagine, for a moment, that every doubt you've ever had, every morally questionable choice, every moment of weakness, may have been influenced by this subtle force, working in the shadows. And not just you, but the entire world. Governments, religious leaders, thinkers, everyone, in one way or another, may be under this invisible influence, which spreads like a web, connecting the most significant events and decisions in history. This revelation challenges the common narrative we've been taught. Lucifer is not defeated. He is in control in ways we never imagined. He shapes the course of humanity, not with an iron fist, but with whispers of doubt, temptation, and slow corruption. And that changes everything. The battle we thought was in the hands of angels and demons, in the spiritual realms, is happening here, now, in the mind and heart of every human being. And the real danger is that by ignoring this reality, we become easy prey for a force that knows our weaknesses better than we do. Now you may be asking yourself, how does this impact my life? How does this invisible battle, this subtle influence, shape my choices, my beliefs, and the world around me? The truth is that we are all involved in this game, whether we like it or not, and the more we ignore it, the more Lucifer's power grows stronger. And this is the twist that few dare to confront. Evidence of this subtle influence is actually hidden in the scriptures themselves, in passages that often go unnoticed or are deliberately ignored. Ancient biblical texts, if read carefully, reveal testimonies that have never been fully explored. Verses that at first glance seem minor hide profound meanings, and it is in these lesser-known words that we find proof of Lucifer's continued activity in the modern world. One such example is in Job 1 verse 7, where, after his fall, Lucifer approaches God and, when asked where he came from, replies, "From going to and fro in the earth and walking up and down in it." These words are more than a simple answer. They suggest a constant presence, a disturbing vigilance that never ceases. Lucifer, even after his fall, continues to roam the earth, watching, waiting, influencing, always ready to exploit any weakness. And that is just the beginning. In 1 Peter 5 verse 8, we find another alarming verse, "Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary the devil walks about like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour." Again, this idea of Lucifer lurking, always on the prowl, always looking for an opening. This concept of a power that is always vigilant is repeated in texts that rarely receive the attention they deserve. These hidden biblical testimonies lead us to a new understanding of evil in the world. It is not just external forces attacking in direct and visible ways. Evil moves in the shadows, waiting for moments of vulnerability, using our own desires against us. These lesser-known verses are a clear warning. The spiritual war is not over, it has simply changed form. And as long as we continue to ignore these passages, we underestimate the depth of this battle. Connect this to what we see in the world today: uncertainty, chaos, division. These are not just human manifestations. If we look more closely, we will see that the forces that were at work in biblical times are still here, influencing systems, destroying bonds, and driving humanity closer to the abyss. And all of this happens in such subtle ways that it is rarely recognized. Can you see the connections? These verses, often ignored or misinterpreted, point to a larger reality. A reality in which the battle between good and evil is not something distant, but something that is happening right now, all around us. And the question we must all ask ourselves is, are we aware enough to resist it? Or are we being drawn into this darkness without even realizing it? As we explore these hidden passages more deeply, we begin to see that they form a map for understanding the true scope of Lucifer's influence. What these revelations show us is that evil does not manifest itself only in dramatic ways, as in wars or great catastrophes. On the contrary, it acts almost imperceptibly, infiltrating our thoughts, our systems, and even our most everyday decisions. This is the big shift in perspective that we need to understand. Lucifer, after his fall, did not simply abandon his mission. He adapted his tactics, becoming the master of deception and manipulation. He no longer appears with the strength of a fallen angel, but with the subtlety of a continuous and almost silent influence. Now stop and think. The evil you see around you is only a fraction of what is really happening. Because as you look at the big events and the visible signs, there is a spiritual war going on at the level of small decisions, of thoughts that seem insignificant but that slowly lead us away from the truth and the light. And this is where this revelation deepens. When we understand how Lucifer operates, we realize that he does not act alone. He uses the very systems we have built, our institutions, our ideas, even our ambitions, as tools to continue his influence. It distorts what is good, corrupts what is right, and leads us to believe that the path we are on is safe, when in fact we are heading straight for darkness. This expansion of the concept of evil, which we now understand as a force that infiltrates our lives in subtle ways, changes the way we interpret the world. It is no longer an epic battle between angelic beings in the sky. It is a daily, personal and intimate struggle in which each of us is involved, whether we like it or not. Historical and practical examples show us how this invisible influence has shaped the events of the world. From powerful leaders who were driven by ambition and pride, to times when humanity lost its way in its own creations, there is always a subtle presence that makes us question, are we really in control, or are we being manipulated by forces we do not even realize? This new understanding leads us to look at evil in a more complex and profound way. It is not just an external force against which we struggle. It is something that, if we are not careful, can easily infiltrate our own lives, our thoughts, and our hearts. And in understanding this, we begin to see the true extent of Lucifer's power in the modern world. Now that we understand how this subtle influence operates, it is time to reflect on something even deeper. How might these invisible forces be impacting your life, right now, without you even realizing it? Think about the small decisions you make every day, the doubts that arise without explanation, the moments when you feel an invisible weight trying to pull you away from what you know is right. Have you ever stopped to think about how evil presents itself in subtle ways, almost like a soft voice in your head, always questioning you, always undermining your confidence? How many times have you found yourself in situations where you knew what you should do, but felt an inexplicable force pulling you in the opposite direction? This is not an isolated phenomenon, and it is certainly not something that happens only to you. This is the essence of the invisible war we have been discussing, a war that is waged within each of us, in every thought, in every choice. And this is the true nature of Lucifer's manipulation. It is not a battle of swords and shields, but a battle that is waged in our hearts and minds, every day. Think for a moment about the decisions you have made recently. Those small choices that, at the time, seemed unimportant. Were they entirely yours? Or were they somehow influenced by something beyond your understanding? What if this pattern of small compromises is slowly building a narrative that is not yours, but is being guided by forces you never realized? Now is the time to reflect. This realization should not just scare us, it should wake us up. Awaken us to the fact that every thought, every choice, every small deviation, is an opportunity to resist this influence. Or, if we are not careful, an opportunity for evil to infiltrate our lives further. This is the real battle we face, a battle for our souls, fought in the shadows of our own minds. And the more aware we are of these subtle forces, the more power we will have to resist. But the question remains, are you willing to look beyond the veil and recognize these invisible influences? Or will you continue to believe that you are always in control, when in fact you may be being guided by something much larger and much darker than you ever imagined? And there is more, something that few dare to consider. What if this invisible influence was not just something that operates on a spiritual level, but was also rooted in the very events that shape the modern world? What we are about to reveal is even more disturbing. There is a direct connection between the fallen angels, those who followed Lucifer in his rebellion, and events that at first glance seem purely human. You might imagine that great historical events such as wars, revolutions, and cultural changes are simply the result of human choices. But what if behind these decisions there was a spiritual influence, a subtle nudge that moves leaders, nations, and even ideologies towards ends that could never be attributed to man alone? The ancient texts speak of the continued activity of the fallen angels, and how they did not disappear after their fall. On the contrary, they spread throughout the earth, infiltrating the structures of power, the minds of those who shape the future of humanity. They operate behind the scenes, like invisible puppeteers, guiding the course of history towards something much greater and more sinister. Lucifer may have been cast out of heaven, but he and his followers never abandoned their mission. They have become masters of disguise, moving among us, influencing decisions on levels we cannot even comprehend. Think of the great wars, the sudden cultural shifts, the technological advances that have transformed society in such a short time. Some say that all of this is part of the natural progression of humanity. But what if there is an invisible hand pushing us towards these destinies? What if many of the events we consider mere coincidences or human evolution are, in fact, guided by something much older and deeper? And here is the second great revelation: these forces do not act alone. They need something, or someone. They need us. They need humanity to carry out their plan. Because by corrupting our minds, by manipulating our desires and fears, they can get us to do their dirty work for them. And so the events that shape our modern world are not simply reflections of human will, but a carefully choreographed dance by beings who have existed in the shadows since the beginning of time. Can you feel it? Can you sense how these small deviations and great catastrophes are interconnected? We live in a world where the seen and the unseen are constantly intertwined, and this is the truth that few recognize. The fallen angels are not just part of an ancient legend. They are here, now, shaping the destiny of humanity in ways you never imagined. And the closer we come to this truth, the more we begin to understand that our battle is much bigger than we thought. What seemed to be a war being fought in the spiritual realms is actually happening before our eyes, in every news story, in every political decision, in every cultural movement. And what you do with this knowledge may well define your role in this battle. If we look at human history through this new lens, we begin to see events differently. Great wars, cultural revolutions, technological advances, these all begin to seem like more than just historical milestones. These events, which define the course of humanity, could have been influenced by unseen forces far beyond human understanding. What if these moments were not simply the result of political or social conflicts, but the reflection of a spiritual battle that has spanned millennia? From the fall of empires to the rise of ideologies that forever changed the way we live, there are clear parallels between historical events and the patterns of spiritual corruption mentioned in Scripture. Take, for example, the Great World Wars. They have been seen as conflicts over territory, power, and ideology, but what if, behind the scenes, there was a darker spiritual impulse driving these forces? The fallen angels, led by Lucifer, have infiltrated the minds of leaders, instigating pride, greed, and destruction. Think of the powerful figures in history, kings, emperors, dictators, who have allowed themselves to be consumed by these feelings. What if, behind these personalities, there was an unseen influence, corrupting their intentions and leading them to make decisions that resulted in immense tragedies for humanity? These parallels are unsettling. The power of Lucifer and his followers is not limited to manipulating individuals on a personal level. It manifests itself in entire systems, in ideologies that appeal to the masses, and in global movements that seem, at first glance, to be natural advances or regressions for humanity. But what if they are something much more sinister? What if what we see as evolution or change is actually a complex game being orchestrated to bring the world to a tipping point? History shows us that at crucial moments, human beings have made decisions that not only affected their own lives, but the fate of entire nations. From the Crusades, to the Industrial Revolutions, to the modern age of technology, there are times when it seems as if unseen forces were moving the pieces on the global chessboard. And while many believe that these events are purely the result of human decisions, what we are beginning to understand is that these unseen forces may have shaped each of these moments. Think of the great divisions we see today, the struggles for power, control, and influence. Are these simply battles between nations? Or are they reflections of something much deeper, something that connects directly to the invisible battle that Lucifer began since his fall? What is revealed here is that human history is not just a sequence of political and social events, but a battlefield where spiritual forces fight for control. And now, as we look at the events around us, we can begin to see the connections. Every war, every mass movement, every great advance or setback may be part of this invisible battle that is still being fought. A battle that shapes not only the past, but the present and future of humanity. The real question is, how aware are we that we are living on this spiritual battlefield? And more importantly, are we prepared to confront the forces that continue to manipulate the destiny of our history? Evil, so long seen as a distant and abstract force, begins to take on a more tangible form when we understand it in this way. It is not just a theological idea or a philosophical concept. Evil is real, palpable, and it has a name. It has an identity. And more than that, it has a purpose. Lucifer, the bearer of light, the fallen angel who rebelled against the Creator, is not a mythological figure confined to the pages of Scripture. He is a living, breathing entity seeking to corrupt and destroy all that is good and holy. And he does not act alone. The angels who fell with him, the followers of his rebellion, are among us, in disguise, operating in ways we would never suspect. But what makes all this even more alarming is the fact that evil, as a personified force, adapts. It molds itself to our world, to our times, to our weaknesses. It does not present itself as a monster or a threatening shadow. No. Evil disguises itself, presenting itself in ways that seem attractive, seductive, even beneficial. It appears in moments of temptation, in choices that seem harmless, and in the decisions we make every day, without realizing that we are being led by something much larger and more sinister. This is the true nature of the influence of Lucifer and his followers. They do not need to reveal themselves explicitly to exert their power. They work behind the scenes, manipulating hearts and minds, creating illusions that lead us astray. And this is how evil becomes so effective, because it disguises itself as something we desire, something we believe to be good. Have you ever felt an inexplicable force pulling you away from what you knew to be right? Have you ever felt that certain situations in your life were more than just coincidences? As if something was shaping your steps, pushing you toward decisions that somehow seemed wrong, yet irresistible at the same time? This is not just a figment of your imagination. It is evil personified, working through human desires and fears, always lurking, always looking for an opening to infiltrate. But this influence does not stop at the individual level. As we have seen, it spreads to larger scales, affecting entire societies, entire nations. Evil personified is not a distant figure. It is here, acting in political, economic, and cultural systems. It penetrates every aspect of human life, corrupting what can be corrupted, distorting what can be distorted. And that is what makes the battle so difficult. Evil, when personified, becomes more than an invisible force. It becomes an adversary that understands our desires, our weaknesses, and is willing to exploit each of them to achieve its goal. And with every moment of weakness, with every concession, he gains ground. This is the true face of the enemy we face. It is not just an abstract force, but a living, conscious presence that uses everything in its power to lead us astray. What we are facing is a malignant intelligence that works tirelessly to destroy, corrupt, and conquer. And the question that remains for us is, are we ready to recognize it and fight it, or will we remain blind to its subtle maneuvers until it is too late? And now, the most profound revelation, Lucifer's true plan for modern times has not yet been fully revealed. What we know so far is only the surface of something much larger, something that continues to unfold in the shadows, far from the eyes of ordinary people. Imagine, for a moment, that everything we have seen so far, the wars, the conflicts, the crises, are just pieces of a much more complex puzzle. Lucifer, in his rebellion, did not seek only immediate power and control. His ambition was much greater. He wanted to subvert creation itself, to distort God's handiwork from the inside out until it was no longer recognizable. What we are about to discover is that his carefully crafted plan involves the very fabric of human reality. He is not just out to corrupt individuals or manipulate historical events. He is slowly and silently shaping the destiny of humanity on a scale few can even imagine. Through his followers, the fallen angels, he has planted seeds that have been growing for centuries. Institutions, systems, beliefs, all can be tainted by this unseen influence. And his true goal? It is not just to destroy or dominate. Lucifer is working to rewrite the rules of existence, to transform the world itself into a distorted reflection of the heaven he so desperately wanted to control. He is not just trying to win a battle. He wants to transform the battlefield into something he can shape to his advantage. The modern world, with all its complexities, its technologies, its interconnected cultures, its incessant crises, is the perfect stage for this transformation. While many believe that we are progressing, moving toward a future of light and knowledge, there is a force at work that is driving this progress in the opposite direction, toward darkness. And herein lies the real trap. Lucifer is using human advancement itself against us. He distorts progress, making it seem like something great, when in reality we are blindly heading toward an abyss. The technology we so celebrate may be being manipulated to disconnect us from our own humanity. Cultural movements we believe to be liberating may be trapping us in ideologies that serve a greater, darker purpose. And this is the final layer of mystery that few dare to explore. Lucifer's ultimate plan is not just to destroy humanity, but to mold it in his own image, completely corrupting the divine handiwork and establishing a new kingdom, not in heaven, but here on earth. A kingdom where he will not be just a fallen angel, but the ruler of a world he will have reshaped to his will. The suspense grows when we realize that many of the advances we consider to be triumphs of humanity may actually be leading us straight into this twisted kingdom. And the most disturbing truth? We may, without realizing it, be contributing to the construction of this new world. With every choice we make, with every innovation we accept without question, we may be strengthening this plan. Now imagine the impact of that. Imagine a world where evil not only creeps into moments of weakness, but becomes the very system in which we live, breathe, and exist. This is the true climax of the revelation. Lucifer's plan is still underway, and it may be much closer to completion than we dare imagine. And now all of this brings us back to the most important question: how are these unseen forces, these dark plans, shaping your life and your daily choices? How might this ancient power, dating back to the heavenly rebellion, be affecting you in ways you never considered? You may believe that you are in control, that your decisions are purely your own, guided by logic, faith, or perhaps even instinct. But what if, in the subtext of everyday life, these hidden forces were whispering in your ear? What if, in the moments of doubt, of anguish, of seemingly harmless choices, you were being subtly led toward Lucifer's greater plan? A plan that is not about great cataclysms or obvious signs, but about the slow corruption of the human soul. Think about the temptations you face every day. They are not always dramatic, as in the biblical tales. They are small moments of selfishness, anger, greed, desperation. Small concessions that, over time, can change the course of an entire life. And that is the true cunning of Lucifer's influence. He works in the shadows, shaping our lives without us even realizing it. Now, stop and reflect. When was the last time you felt a force pulling you away from what you knew was right? When was the last time you questioned the purpose of your actions, or the intentions behind your decisions. What seemed like a simple choice or a passing doubt may have been a manifestation of this unseen plan, working silently to distance you from the path of light. And the great irony is that, in an increasingly interconnected and fast-paced world, many of these influences can seem like a natural part of modern life. The pressure to succeed, the obsession with progress, the constant distraction of technology and entertainment, all of these can be seen as signs of an advanced world. But what if behind all this lies a carefully orchestrated plan that uses our own desires against us? That is the question you must ask yourself now. How are these invisible forces shaping your life? What decisions are you making, without knowing it, that may be aligned with something much larger and more sinister than it first appears? It is not just about the big choices in life, but the small ones. Those moments of hesitation, those fleeting thoughts, those compromises you make without realizing it. Lucifer's plan is not just playing out in the world around us. It is playing out within us. And the more we ignore this reality, the more easily we become pawns in this invisible game. The question that remains is, are you willing to open your eyes to this hidden influence, or will you continue to live believing that everything is under your control, while greater forces pull the strings of your existence in the shadows? As we get closer to the heart of this mystery, we begin to realize something fundamental. We are not alone in this invisible battle. And the truth is that despite the dark forces operating in the shadows, there are lights shining through the darkness. And these lights are not just abstract. They are present in the lives of real people, people who have faced the depths of this spiritual struggle and emerged triumphant. There are powerful testimonies of faith, stories of overcoming and resisting these forces. Stories of people who, when faced with evil in its most subtle form, chose the path of light, even when it seemed impossible. And it is these stories that show us that, despite the power of Lucifer and his followers, good can still prevail. One such story involves an ordinary woman facing an extraordinary battle. She went through a period of great temptation. Her life seemed to be falling apart. The daily pressures, the negative influences around her, everything seemed to be conspiring against her. But in a moment of deep reflection, something inside her awakened. A greater force called her to resist, to fight against the invisible tide that was trying to sink her. She began to pray, not with empty words, but with deep and sincere faith. And it was in this prayer that she felt the presence of something greater, something that sustained her and guided her out of the darkness. The influences that had previously led her to despair began to lose strength. Her choices, previously guided by fear and doubt, began to be based on courage and conviction. Little by little, she rebuilt her life, not as a victim of invisible forces, but as a spiritual warrior, protected by divine light. This is not an isolated story. All over the world, people are facing silent spiritual battles, and many of them are emerging with renewed faith and inner strength they never knew they had. They are overcoming not only visible difficulties, but also the invisible pressures that try to divert them from the path of truth. And this is where the connection with the public becomes even more powerful. These stories of overcoming are not just tales of faith. They are living examples that even when evil seems to be winning, light can still prevail. The battles may be silent, they may be fought within us, but testimonies of victory show us that good always finds a way to shine, even in the darkest moments. These examples of overcoming remind us that no matter what invisible forces are at work in our lives, we have the power to resist. We have the power to choose the path of light, even when everything around us seems to be pulling us into darkness. The question is not whether evil is present, but how we choose to face it. And for those who sincerely seek the light, there is always a greater force willing to guide and protect them. You, too, are part of this story. The battles you face, no matter how small they may seem, are opportunities to resist these invisible influences. And the choices you make, both big and small, can be the keys to transforming your life and emerging stronger, more enlightened, more firm in faith. We are approaching the most crucial point of this journey. The revelations we have seen so far have been powerful, challenging, but what comes next will be even more impactful. You have felt the connections, seen the testimonies of overcoming, understood how evil operates in the shadows. But now, we are about to enter the most important phase, the climax of this entire narrative. The moment where everything comes together, where the hidden truth is finally revealed in its entirety. There is something you need to know before we get there. This battle is not just about the world around you. It is not just about systems, events, or historical figures. No. This is ultimately a personal battle. And you are at the center of it. The forces we have been discussing, which operate invisibly in the shadows, are constantly around you, waiting for moments of weakness, of doubt, to act. But here is the most important secret: you are not helpless. This is not a fight you fight alone. The stories of overcoming that we discussed earlier, they are not just about others. They are about you too. They are a reflection of what can be achieved when you connect with the power of the light, with the strength of faith, with something greater than yourself. And this is what you need to understand as we prepare for the climax. What is at stake here is not just the fate of the world, but your personal destiny. Every choice you make, every thought, every small decision, contributes to this battle. And while Lucifer and his followers try to corrupt and distort, the light is also always there, offering you a way out, a way to resist. We are approaching a moment when everything you have heard so far will be put to the test. The climax of this story is not just a revelation about Lucifer's plans, but a revelation about your own role in this battle. You will be asked to face the truth head-on, to look within yourself and see the forces at work. It will be time to decide whether you will continue to be influenced by these invisible forces, or whether you will take control, resisting with the power of faith and light. Brace yourself, because what comes next will not be easy. We will be entering territory that will require deep reflection from you, a real understanding of what is at stake. But remember, the light always offers a way. Even in the deepest shadows, even when all seems lost, there is always a way out, always a way to triumph over evil. And now, we are about to reach the climax. Be prepared, because the final revelation is about to be unveiled, and the impact will be transformative. This is the truth you have been waiting for, the truth that can change everything. The great revelation is before you. The climax of this journey is more than a simple discovery. It is the moment when the veil is torn away, and the true nature of this spiritual battle becomes undeniable. Everything we have discussed, from the fall of Lucifer to his continuing influence on the modern world, culminates in a single overwhelming truth: the battle is not taking place in some distant future or in some inaccessible spiritual realm. It is happening here, now, all around you, in every aspect of your life. This truth can be difficult to accept. After all, the idea that we are all engaged in an invisible war, a war that defines the destiny of humanity, can seem overwhelming. But that is exactly what is happening. Lucifer's true power has never been completely destroyed. He continues to manipulate, to corrupt, to mislead people's hearts and minds, all without most even realizing it. And here is the revelation that few are ready to face: this spiritual battle is not about a final showdown between good and evil that is yet to come. No. The real battle is being fought right now, within you, in your daily choices, in your thoughts, in your fears and desires. You are the battlefield. And the forces that operate in the shadows are constantly trying to influence the course of your life. Lucifer's power is not just in the chaos and destruction we see around us. It is in the doubt that corrodes faith, in the fear that paralyzes action, in the temptation that whispers empty promises. And that is where the real fight takes place. He does not need great displays of strength to gain ground. He only needs small moments of weakness, small concessions, to plant his seeds and let them grow. But here's the deeper truth, the one that brings hope, good, light, faith. These forces are infinitely more powerful than any influence Lucifer can exert. Evil may be insidious, it may be persistent, but it will never be greater than the power of good. And this battle, however intense, can be won. And the final great revelation is this: the real spiritual battle does not take place only in great cosmic events. It takes place every day, in moments of decision, in seemingly small choices, in silent resistance to evil. And this battle can be won, not only at the end of time, but now, every time you choose light over darkness, faith over fear, good over evil. Lucifer's power is real, but he is not invincible. The real strength lies within you, in your ability to choose good, to resist the invisible influences that try to divert you from the right path. And with this revelation, the responsibility is clear: you are part of this battle. With every choice, with every thought, you are contributing to victory or defeat. So what will you do with this knowledge? The real battle is happening now, and how you face it is up to you. The light is always there, always ready to guide and strengthen those who seek it. And with that light, you can win, even in the quietest, most unseen battles. And as this revelation unfolds in its fullness, what emerges before us is not just a showdown between good and evil, but a profound and hopeful theological truth. Even though the spiritual battle is ongoing, and while Lucifer's forces continue to operate in the shadows, the light will always prevail. And this is not just a vague promise, it is a certainty, grounded in Scripture and in the character of God Himself. Let us return to the verses that support this hope. In Romans 16 verse 20, we find this promise: "And the God of peace will crush Satan under your feet shortly." This is one of the greatest reminders that, though the struggle is intense, the ultimate victory has already been decreed. Evil may have its time, but its destiny is defeat. And this brings us to an even more powerful truth: this battle is not ours to win alone. While we are active participants, and our choices matter, the true force behind the victory is God Himself. He, who has already defeated evil on the cross, continues to work in us and through us to ensure that this victory is manifest in every sphere of our lives. In Ephesians 6 verse 12, Paul reminds us that we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world. But then he exhorts us to put on the full armor of God. This means that even though we are in the midst of this battle, we are not unarmed. We have at our disposal the spiritual tools to resist and overcome: faith, truth, righteousness, the Word of God. These are not just theoretical concepts, but powerful weapons that have been given to us to ensure that no matter how intense the struggle, we can stand firm. And here's the crux of it: the battle may seem endless, and evil may seem powerful, but hope is always present. Faith connects us to this inexhaustible source of divine strength, a strength that not only protects us but guides and transforms us. Because ultimately, true victory over evil is not just surviving it, but being transformed by the light in the midst of it. Every small resistance we make to evil, every choice we make for the light, is a manifestation of the victory that is already assured. Think about that for a moment. Every time you choose kindness over selfishness, every time you forgive instead of revenge, every time you have faith instead of giving into fear, you are participating in that victory. And this is not a victory just for the distant future, it is a victory that you can experience right now, in your daily choices. So as we reflect on all that has been revealed, remember this: the battle continues, yes, but the final victory has already been written. God, in His wisdom and power, is always at your side, guiding, protecting, and fighting for you. And in the end, light will triumph over darkness, just as was promised from the beginning of time. Now that we understand the depth of this battle, the revelation becomes clear. It is not enough to simply know about the invisible struggle, we must act. The real question that echoes within each of us is, what will we do with this knowledge? This is not the time for passivity, but for concrete decision. And so I invite you to a call to action. First, the most fundamental action you can take is to protect your soul. As we have seen, invisible influences are all around us, waiting for every opportunity to infiltrate our lives. The first step in resisting these forces is to arm yourself spiritually. Do you remember the armor of God mentioned in Ephesians? It is not a distant metaphor. It is something you can and should put into practice right now. Start with prayer. But not just any prayer, make it a moment of deep connection with divine light, a shield against the darkness that seeks to invade your life. Set aside time each day to strengthen yourself spiritually, to renew your faith, and to align your heart with what is good, pure, and true. Do not underestimate the power of prayer. It is both a weapon and a refuge, both a call to battle and a protective embrace. Study the scriptures. Fill your mind with divine truths so that when lies and temptations arise, you can recognize them immediately. This is a crucial defense. The more you know the truth, the less power evil has to distort it in your life. Read, meditate, and internalize the promises you have been given, for in them lies the strength you need to resist. And in addition to protecting yourself, you also have a responsibility to protect those around you. Because the battle is not visible to everyone, many live their lives unaware that they are being influenced. Perhaps your loved ones, friends, or even colleagues are struggling spiritually without realizing it. You can be a light to them, a guide. Share what you have learned. It doesn't have to be dramatic or forced, but offer the wisdom you now possess. Show them that there is a path to light, to hope, and that no one is alone in this battle. Make conscious choices. Now that you know how these invisible forces operate, each small decision takes on new weight. Ask yourself, is this moving me closer to the light or the shadows? Am I being guided by my values or by the subtle influences that want to lead me astray? By making decisions based on truth and faith, you not only protect your own soul, but you also weaken the power of these invisible forces in the world around you. And finally, take practical action. If there is something in your life that is keeping you from the good, from what is right, now is the time to let it go. Whether it's a destructive habit, a toxic relationship, or a negative mindset, this is your opportunity to break those bonds and make room for the light to enter. Resistance is not just spiritual, it is practical, it is daily, it is intentional. So the call is upon you. How will you protect yourself? How will you protect those around you? And how, in your daily actions, will you resist these invisible influences and strengthen the power of good? Remember, every step you take toward the light is a victory, not just for you, but for the entire world. And that is the greatest form of action we can take in this invisible battle. Now that you have accepted the call to action, allow me to end this journey with a message of hope and inspiration. No matter how intense this invisible battle may seem, there is one truth that transcends all the revelations we have explored: the light always wins. No matter how much the forces of darkness try to divert, corrupt, or manipulate you, the power of good, of faith, of truth, and of light is infinitely stronger. And that power is available to you, now and always. Remember that even in your daily battles, you are not alone. You never have been. Every time you choose good, every time you resist evil, you are connecting with a divine force that has already defeated the darkness. That force is all around you, guiding you, protecting you, strengthening you to keep resisting, to keep fighting for truth, for light. These small daily victories, these seemingly simple choices, are actually powerful moments in which you align yourself with the greater purpose of creation. When you choose to love instead of hate, to forgive instead of holding grudges, to believe instead of doubting, you are contributing to the final victory of good. And this victory, although already assured by the divine promise, manifests itself in concrete ways in each choice, in each action you make. And don't forget, you are not just fighting for yourself. By resisting the forces of darkness, by choosing the path of light, you are illuminating the path for others. Your strength, your faith, your determination become beacons for those who are still lost in the darkness. Your example can be the inspiration someone needs to wake up, to fight, to choose the light too. Therefore, as you move forward on this journey, carry with you this certainty: good triumphs. Light always prevails over darkness. And you, by accepting your role in this great spiritual battle, are contributing to this victory, here and now. Final words: remember, you are not alone in this battle. The forces of good are infinitely more powerful than those of evil. And with faith, you can triumph. No matter how strong the shadows seem, the light within you, the light of truth, of faith, of love, is stronger. Trust in that light. Allow it to guide your steps, your decisions, and illuminate the path for you and those around you. You have emerged from this journey more aware, more awake to the unseen reality that permeates the world. Now, it is up to you to continue walking with confidence, knowing that, even in the most difficult battles, the final victory has already been won. You are part of that victory. And this is the truth that will guide you in the days to come. May the light be with you, always.